This is my flag. This is my, there's a patriotic piece to this. This is my flag, and I want it back because my flag has turned into this flag.
Oh, yeah.
And I want this flag back.
Oh.
So I'm reclaiming, capture the flag. And you know, not only foreclosures, you know, it's not just foreclosures. I made up this sign. We've been getting, you know, you talk about a rat getting carpet bombed. We've had our own version of carpet bombing here in this country, and it includes foreclosure, but certainly that's not the only thing that has hit us, from union busting to the market crash. So before I get to my statistics, a brief history of how we all ended up in this room where I'm once again preaching to the choir. And I apologize for I don't have the actual years here, but it's going to be familiar and it's fairly chronological. So we have WTO and NAFTA begins the mass exportation of U.S. jobs, wages stagnate. Glass-Steagall goes in the round file, wages stagnate, CEO compensation starts to rise. U.S. economy compensates by creating investment bubble economies, wages remain stagnant. CEO compensation rises. Internet bubble bursts, wages remain stagnant. CEO compensation unchanged. Ayn Rand protege, Alan Greenspan, right, pushes low interest loans. Wages still stagnant. American homeowners flip houses or use home equity as an ATM to buy a car or send Johnny to college. Wages remain stagnant. CEO compensation rises. Housing bubble explodes. Toxic derivatives exposed. Wages remain stagnant. People lose jobs. CEO compensation rises. Hank Paulson comes out, waves a piece of paper in front of the American people, says the sky is falling, wages remain stagnant, people lose jobs, CEO compensation rises. Supreme Court announces corporations are people, right? Soil and Green coming soon. Taxpayers bail out the banks. They get loans at 0.0001% interest. The banks reinvest that money in U.S. Treasuries at 3% and start foreclosing on homeowners. Even more people lose jobs. CEO compensation rises. And with that, a segue to our favorite poster child for corporate welfare, Bank of America.
Bankrupt America.
Yeah.
I nominate Chase.
Just some, I've got it on a handout, but just a few facts here about Bank of America. First of all,
APG&E called it the People's Bank, right?
That was
founder, APG&E
Right.
Oh, yeah.
in San Francisco, called it
When
the
he was
People's
alive.
that was 100 years ago.
I just want to highlight a couple of things from the fact sheet that I'll be handing out, but Nancy already referred to it. Bank of America doesn't lend to small businesses, and I think in 2010 it ended up being 6%. I had, as of August 2010, they only lent out, made 3 business loans. Well, what's interesting, in 2007 they actually had made 98 small business loans. So you can see the incredible drop in there. Last year, in 2010, Bank of America made $4.4 billion in profits, having received a total bailout from the Federal Reserve of nearly $1 trillion, and paid no taxes, only to be rewarded, adding insult to injury, with a $1.9 billion tax refund. And that's from Bernie Sanders' book, The Speech, which I encourage you to read. Bank of America has a long history of fraud and fines, too numerous to mention here, but including $137 million fine paid to the SEC, which was really just a slap on the wrist, for having engaged in bid rigging and other non-competitive behavior in their efforts to sell municipal bond derivatives to various state agencies, municipalities, school districts, and nonprofits. And you know, that was the SEC under the Bush administration, so you can imagine somebody woke up at some point there. But, that's from Sanders again. This one I found, the last two I found really disturbing. Bank of America enables the poverty industry. It provides Advance America, the giant payday chain, a $265 million line of credit, allowing the chain to borrow money at 3% interest and loan it out at 400% interest. You know, every 2 weeks they go in and they cash their check and they, you know, have to pay it back in a couple of weeks at 400%. And in effect, that's just money laundering usury, I guess you would call it. And they have a branch. They don't have any branches in Oregon, but just over the state line in Wairika, they have a branch.
Who owns them?
Pardon?
I wonder if Bank of America has.
Well, they're
some
from,
ownership in them.
I wonder, yeah.
They own a lot.
Yeah, they own
And this one blew my mind. Bank of, and you can't wrap your brain around this number. Bank of America just recently, last week, I'm sure some of you read about this, moved its massive derivative positions into an FDIC account. So, you know, Nancy talked about the different ways we're subsidizing these people.
Yeah.
It's shifting its risk of loss on speculative derivative contracts to the FDIC and subsequently to us again.
Did they say what their value or the?
Well, they said the notional value, and I looked up the word notional, and you know, it could be imaginary. We don't know, but the notional value of the contract, and you can't wrap your brain around it, is $75 trillion. And you know, I did all the research, and I have on the handouts all the stuff to back it up. But a couple of books I encourage people to read. I don't know if anyone's read Naomi Klein's book, Shock Doctrine.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's going on right now in Iraq. You know, somebody wrote a letter to the editor the other day saying that what did we get out of Iraq? We you know, 4,500 casualties.
Yeah.
And what did we get from it? Well, we're getting the payout now. And you know, ExxonMobil and the rest of these companies are standing right in line because the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has opened it. Maliki was over in Washington, meeting with the chamber, doing luncheons, meeting with the president. And the bottom line is Iraq is now open for business. And meanwhile, you know, you have all these casualties over there, orphans, malnutrition, all of that, and it's the shock doctrine all over again. And I want to conclude, there's a great editorial today in the paper. I don't know if anybody's read it, by, I don't know if he's here, Aaron Corbett, and he ends his editorial, and I really encourage you to read it. We do not need patriotic platitudes. We need a revolutionary moral restructuring of this nation, known in other societies as perestroika, jihad, which is a totally nonviolent in the Quran, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this, libun in the Torah. If we do not have this sort of revolution, there will be no union left to preserve. Okay, we can have these.
It's worth mentioning, Andy, that MF Global just failed.
Yes.
And left a whole bunch of farmers stranded who had their money invested in it. And Corzine has been on the carpet in front of Congress.